Hello and welcome to episode 201 of the Filmmakers Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk filmmaking, from indie film to studio films and everything in between. How to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to F it up, in our very, very humble opinion. Today, we are talking about how to direct and produce your own self-funded, micro-budget debut movie with the amazing Will Thorne, who made the movie Silent Night. Will is also the producer of the brand new documentary One Man and His Shoes, which is a fantastic documentary all about the Nike shoe and especially the Air Jordan. One Man and His Shoes was directed by Yemi Bamiro, and Will be back along with Yemi to talk all about One Man and His Shoes in a future episode. Thank you so much for listening. You're all superstars. Absolutely. Today with Will Thorne, we talk about how we went from working in the supermarket to becoming a film director, how he started as a runner in TV and he worked his way up the production ladder, how he made his first short film, and how and why he wrote Silent Night. We also talk about how we got producers and how you can get producers, and how going to festivals is a really great way to meet producers. How we got Judd Tillyard on board, the amazing producer of the feature films Sleeper Ashes and Two Heads Creek. How he cast the movie. How he got his friends as well in the movie, which includes Bradley Taylor, Carey Crankson, Nathaniel Martello White, Joel Fry, and Frank Harper. We'll also talk about what it was like on set and how it felt to direct a feature film after years of trying. We also talk about how he sold the movie and he got the distributor Light Bulb Distribution on board. All that to come on this week's episode of the Filmmakers Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Honestly, this means the world to me. I am Giles Alderson, and joining me as my co-host today is Lucinda Rhodes Thakrar. Now, Lucinda, if you don't know already, she's produced the feature films of Robin Hood the Rebellion, Repeat, When the Screaming Starts, Arthur and Merlin, Knights of Camelot, Behind the Line, We Go In at Dawn, and recently finished principal photography on Confession, starring Cole Meany and Stephen Moyer. Thank you so much for those of you who listened last week to the Noel Clarke episode, our 200th episode. Amazing, amazing. Thank you all so much for your lovely feedback. Wow, what an episode. If you haven't listened to that one, go and have a listen after this. It is with Noel Clarke, the actor, director, writer and producer, and he goes deep into his journey and how he makes his films. It is amazing. You don't want to miss that. Thank you those who did listen. You're amazing. And we do have some shout outs at the end of the show for some people who've been extra special on the Twitter and the Facebook and the Instagram in the last few weeks, promoting us and helping support the show. Thank you. If you do want to support the show, then do go onto our Twitter page at FilmmakersPod, because I think we are literally 20 people away from 10,000 followers. So if you're on Twitter, support us. Incredible. Right, let's not waste any more time. Let's get to today's fantastic episode with myself and my co-host Lucinda Rhodes Thakrar and our amazing guest Will Thorne. Enjoy this week's episode of the Filmmakers Podcast. Hey Will, how you doing, buddy?
Is this on record or not?
Yeah,
I'm a
we're
big
recording
grumpy.
now.
All right, no, yeah. No, it's been a Friday. I've been doing producing work today, so I'm glad to be doing this, because it's like, okay, this is a nice way to end the week.
What's wrong with producing?
Producing's
nice.
For some people.
A day of like admin and just like, really?
Oh, no, yeah.
You know,
Wait, Lucinda, you love that shit. You love the admin side.
I do quite like the admin, actually. I do like a bit of admin.
See, I'm not into it. Will, you're not either. We're too creative for that. Whereas Lucinda's I know she's creative too, but you also really like doing the admin for some reason.
I do. I like making everything's in a row. Everything's correct, you know?
Exactly. People's brains work differently. I don't care if it's in a row. It's all just like there.
Yeah.
You know, and then 2 weeks later, you're like, oh God, I have to clear that up and figure that out.
Yeah.
I was listening to a Noel Clarke one yesterday and I was thinking, I need me a Jason Mazza. Everything he was saying.
Everybody needs a Jason Mazza.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. Wouldn't that be great though? I think Noel built up and Ian built up the fact that Jason, he He loves all that shit. Jason's probably like, I fucking hate that shit. How fucking dare they?
Yeah. But no, like you said, is like, you know, he probably does, but he's quick at it. And I think that's the key is like, everything he was saying is like, I'm, you can drag the thing up the hill, but you know, it just takes ages.
And what was it that you were producing today? Was it One Man in His Shoes stuff? Were you doing all the paperwork for that, or was it Silent Night?
There was a bit of both. There was some Zoom calls and chats and everything. I mean, Silent Night's it's just been released, so obviously there's lots of kind of update. So that's fine. That's just chat, isn't it? But then the One Man in His Shoes is like admin and banking and website stuff, and you know, the stuff you just like.
Isn't it amazing that when we started off as creatives and filmmakers, right, after we'd done the acting or whatever we'd done to sort of get us, me and Lucinda especially, and was you know, it's like, the producing filmmaking said, it's creative, it's going to be amazing, it's amazing. Because when you're an actor, you don't do that much admin. You certainly don't work out how a location fee gets paid or how your sound guy's going to get, you know, from that location to that location. You've got to hire the van, and that's paperwork. You don't see that at all. And I think when we all went into this filmmaking malarkey, I don't think we all realised how difficult it was going to be, right? I mean, What do you think, Will?
There was actually a book, I remember, and it was on producing, and it's like the guy's opening was something like, you know, so you want to work with actors, you want to, you know, he kind of like lays out all of the best things about filmmaking. He's like, well, then, you know, that's not what a producer does, kind of thing. It's like a producer has to crunch the numbers. It has to, like, you know, do all of like the stuff that's actually really, really boring. Like that's the really critical. You get to do all the other stuff and you're in the orbit of all the other great stuff with filmmaking, of course, and creatively, but it's really critical that you get the shit done that needs to be done, and that's mainly like writing a HMRC document or application that is, you know, a funding body that has a 40-page legal document that you need to kind of read through because someone has to read through it, you know. It was funny listening to that Noel Clarke because it was all the things, necessity. That's the thing I've been saying for years. It's like I'm doing this out of necessity, but
I think that is what filmmaking is, right? We all, like I say, people think people are going to knock on our door, and that with that necessity thing, I think just has to come with when you're a filmmaker, when you're starting out, even when you're big time. I think I think it's always like that. I don't think there's any, unless you can afford to pay other people to do that. But even then, you've still got to be on top of it, right? Because people could take you for a ride. You've got to know that shit.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, there's a great example. I can't remember the film. Was it Passengers or something? It was a film a few years ago, and it was Jennifer Lawrence and
Passengers.
Chris,
it was
great
one of the
movie.
Chris's.
Yeah, and I think Keanu Reeves produced that, and he was trying to get that up for like 9 years. And you think, wow, if Keanu can't get a movie up, then you know. It's hard. It's tough. It doesn't matter which level you're at. You just need to be grabbing the ball and trying to run with it, you know? And sometimes that means cool stuff, and sometimes that means paperwork stuff, you know? And if you're trying to do it all, which, you know, we're all trying not to do it all, but at an independent level, you are doing it all. That can mean good days and bad days.
But Will, you had some other producers on Silent Night with you, didn't you?
I had, yeah. So on Silent Night, it's exec produced by a guy called Judd, Tillyard, who sort of came on earlier as more of a producer. I think I met him more in a producing capacity, and I was looking for a producer. And I mean, he's actually based in Australia, so, you know, it just became quite clear early on, you know, right, well, we need a UK producer. There was another guy, Mark Lacey, who I'd sort of met through doing One Man in His Shoes and kind of knew, and he, you know, he's a real great indie guy.
Well, he's done Frank and Weenie, Isle of Dogs. You know, he's worked in some big films as a first assistant director or, you know, production manager. You know, so he's been around. So it was great. In fact, he did the Banksy job, which I was in. I was part of that. So he was involved in that as well, which is really cool. So I did meet him there.
Yeah, he's really cool, and like one of those guys who's just done a bit of everything. And, you know, he's line produced, he's AD'd, he knows how a set goes, you know, he knows that ecosystem. So he was a great person to have around. And then Bradley, who is the lead in the film, he produced it as well. His kind of role as a producer was sort of, you know, like it was later in the stages that we basically just gave him the producer credit because it's like, you're producing, he's picking up so much work. Yeah, so much slack, thanks. Yeah. And he really helped with casting, and he picked up the slack, helping to push it all forward.
And I think that's so important that you have people like that around you when you're making your first feature film, whether that's your actors, whether it's your co-producers, whether it's your director, whoever it is, you're all part of that team. And that's exactly, it sounds like how it was on your set, which sounds amazing. Let's tell the folks at home what Silent Night is before we delve deep into that and how you got it made in the first place. So I describe it as a sort of a Christmas psychological gangster movie.
In a nutshell, I suppose it's what I was trying to do is a British crime thriller. If you had to put it in 3 words, I suppose they're the 3 things that are the kind of elements to it. But yeah, so I should have looked at the log line before the right?
Shall I read it? Do you want me to read it?
Hey, go for it. Yeah, go on.
Okay, this is log line. Mark.
In your best actor's voice, Giles.
Yeah,
please.
yeah. Okay, Hollywood. Can you do the Hollywood?
The Hollywood.
He's from a guy.
I'll try. Mark, a low-end South London hitman, recently released from prison, tries to go straight for his daughter, but gets drawn back in by Alan, his former cellmate, to do one final job.
Nice.
It's pretty
I'd watch it.
Was it good?
It's all right, yeah.
Was it all right?
After I heard that, yeah.
I've done my time. I never wanted any of this.
Hello, little Miss Daisy.
Daddy,
What do you want for Christmas this year?
a real pony.
Pony?
If you can't be trusted to be in the same place you say you're going to be, there's really nothing I can do to help you.
If I don't get some decent money quickly, then I'm going to lose my daughter.
Bloody hell! I never thought we'd see each other again. You look like you've seen a ghost. Reckon me and you can make some serious money if we put our heads together.
Heard you had some trouble inside. Good to have you back.
Don't. I'm not back.
They won't stop contacting you. They want you, they'll just keep going. You know as well as I do, Mark. This won't end well.
He might be more trouble than he's worth.
He's killed me.
Be careful, bro. They got their eye on you. Tell me, when did killing people become so hard?
If I could give her one good Christmas, I'd die a happy man.
Yeah, it's Silent Night. It's an amazing movie. I literally just played the trailer after I did that because I was so good. In fact, you probably didn't need it because I was so good at that.
You sold it.
I started off trying to, I thought, should I go American? It could have gone anywhere. But anyway, so let's jump back to how you actually started, because I want people to know how to make your debut film, what are the difficulties of doing that on your own, producing, directing, writing, and how it is to get that actually over the line and get it made and get a great release like you have with Lightbulb Distribution. So let's jump back a little bit about you and your career to get to that point. Because I know me and you met in Cannes in 2018 on a bus going to play in the Cannes soccer game. Europe versus the rest of the world, and we were on the same team.
Yeah,
right?
I think I played before, but you played up front and I played defence. So I don't think we really met until we were just leaving on the bus, and it's like, yeah, we were on the same team, right? Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, we did, because we were so far away and it was raining so heavily we couldn't see anyone.
It's a big pitch. It is a big pitch.
Felt like a big pitch. Anyway, that day was so claggy. It was finished 3-3, if anyone cares.
It was a great game.
Yeah. Was actually. I missed not playing this year. I was really looking forward to it. But anyway, so we met mainly on the bus coming back, didn't we? And had a really good chat, and you were saying at that point you wanted to make your feature film. You're like, I've not made one yet, but you're in the middle of making One Man in His Shoes. You're producing that, and you produced a load of great content, online stuff, load of shorts, load of brand media. How did it start for you? Why did you want to become a filmmaker in the first place? Was there a movie when you were a kid that really stood out for you? You know, what was your first cinematic love, I suppose?
Yeah, well, it's probably a bit of a cliche, but maybe it is my age. It was Goodfellas, basically, which, you know, you can sort of see, having made Silent Night, and there's a couple of nods in there. Yeah. I mean, I just distinctly remember being about 14, it was the first time I really kind of got what a director was because of the music that was in the film. There's a little bit, do you know the bit where everything's going wrong and you go to the meat packing thing and they open it up and there's like a frozen dead body, and there's this kind of montage where they're kind of like, oh, it's all going wrong. And he used the end bit of Layla by Eric Clapton. It's like it's really weird, like, you know. Yeah, that's Layla, right? Yeah, and it's like, you know, really like guitar and everything. But then it kind of goes into this weird bit towards the end where it sort of goes into the piano. And it's like, it's very... And so I just spotted that. I was really into kind of, you know, Eric Clapton and 70s kind of blues and all this sort of stuff. So I just remember specifically thinking, that's weird. And, you know, so it kind of made me find out, well, who made that choice? Why, you know, who's picking Eric Clapton around here? You know, and then that's where you go, oh, well, it was Martin Scorsese. And then that's where I think it really that was the light bulb moment. That's a job, and there's this one person that's doing it. So I think that's where I kind of, definitely got a real kind of passion for, that's a thing that's cool. I wonder if I could do that. And obviously you think, well, how the bloody hell are you going to do that?
Yeah. And what was your process then from going from that? And obviously there have been other films and other influences, but how did you go from there going, oh, that would be really cool? Was there a path for you? Did you even think this was a possibility?
No, there was kind of no pathway at all. Didn't go to college, didn't go to uni, didn't do anything basically, just went full-time at Tesco. So at that point you're definitely not thinking, oh, well, I'm going to be the next Martin Scorsese.
No,
you know?
Wow, okay, you were full-time at Tesco then at that point.
Yeah, so that's it. I was out of schooling and I was working part-time at Tesco, so it was like, well, go full-time? I didn't really have many other options, and when you're sort of 16 and you don't really have anything, you quickly learn there aren't many options. I remember like having a conversation with my mum, you know, between jobs. What do you want to do? And it's kind of like, you know, I'd love to make films, you know, and she was kind of like, bless her, to be fair, she sort of said, well, you know, let's see if there's a night school, let's see, you know, like same thing, you know, like try and do something. And there was a summer school at Wimbledon Art College, and it was like just 5 days of just a video production course. You know, we lit some things and then we did editing, and it was all, you know, using the turning things and all of that sort of stuff. And actually in that I was able to kind of, you know, whatever we made, which was just a load of old rubbish, but that was the best bit with the editing, is then, you know, because then I was like, oh, well, can I bring music in and just lay whatever music I want? And he's like, yeah, it's like, great. So, you know,
Layla gets played.
Yeah, basically. Basically off of the back of that, the only good thing about, you know, sort of being just working at that age was that I was earning money. So I then went and bought a DV camera and was like, right. Yeah, and I made a little short film, which is called Breakham, which is what I've, you know, named my company Breakham Films after, which essentially was just my mate doing bongs. But it had a kind of little 3-act structure.
At the beginning,
it had a few visual gags. Exactly. But you know what? We used to watch it and it used to get big laughs, you know, and you'd go around and be like a gathering of people and be like, oh yeah, I'll bring Breakham along, you know, and you'd shove the VHS in and, you know, 10 people would watch it and it would get the laughs when it's supposed to get laughs, and it kind of... And I suppose I probably held on to that for many, many years. It was like, oh yeah, well, I did it. I actually did make a film and it kind of worked, you know, it kind of like did what it was supposed to do, which is, you know, titillate us for, you know, whatever. The problem is I couldn't really show it.
Because of the content,
Because of the content.
You go to prison.
It's just, exactly. So like, you know, my parents never saw it, even though they were like, oh, you bought a camera and you're upstairs editing on a VHS thing. I just never showed it to them.
I bet they thought you were really dodgy for a while.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I think they knew that. So that's fine.
All right, so you made Breakham as your first sort of short, if you like, which is incredible. At what age? 18, something like that? 16, 17, 18. And from there, what did you do? You'd done your 5 days at college. Now what did you do to go, okay, I want to do this as a career? Because it's fine to go make a short on, now you can do it on your iPhone, but how do you jump from there to actually having a career like you have from it?
I knew I wanted to go and do that, and I kind of knew that I could do it, like it was possible. I just would have to somehow get my foot in the door and somehow just do it. But I knew that when I did, I'd have to be very dedicated. I'd have to just be like, okay, this is it, I'm all in. So that's why I sort of dicked around in my early 20s, got that all out of my system, and then was like, okay, right, ready to do this, I'm go for it. Because I think the thing is as well, and this is, a lot of what we'll talk about, but, making an indie film is just a thing. Really, I sort of look back and everything I've done, it's like what I was doing on Breakham is pretty much not any different to what I've just done.
But the process is the same.
It's the same. And I kind of got into the industry basically to, because it's like, well, I don't want to work in Tesco anymore and I don't want to do all these other things. I'd rather... if I can do this and pay my rent, great. I've won. And then I'll figure out and hopefully get opportunities or, meet people, get my hands on better equipment. I just saw it as a way in, Trojan horse it basically, and then hope that through the industry, perhaps I'll get to do what I want through that path. So I got a job as a runner. I was like T-boy, all that sort of stuff. I actually did it for I worked in commercials and that kind of world for about 6 months, and did I'm still quite cool. It was like, you remember they did remade Alfie. I ended up being a runner in the post section of that, and it was just whatever jobs, like running around taking costumes back to places, but then in that sort of, there was some commercials I did and some music videos. It was all that film world, exactly where I wanted to be, and they were still shooting on film and all the rest of it. So I'd be driving cans of film to Soho and stuff like that, running between Shepperton, all that stuff. So I was just like wide-eyed, like this is amazing, this is kind of exactly where I want to be. But it was hard because it's very sparse work and you don't know anyone, and you maybe get 1 or 2 days of work a month, and that was like it wasn't sustainable really. I mean, it would have been if I'd have dug my heels in and kept doing it, but at the time it just wasn't happening. Although to be fair, I would have kept doing it, but what happened then was I knew someone else who was working at Tiger Aspect, and he was sort of running, and he said, they need a runner next week in the comedy and entertainment department, Will. And I mean, apart from film, comedy is my other massive passion. So I was kind of like, great, I'll go and do that. It was way less money than sort of day work in the film, more film industry, where you could, I think back then I was probably earning 150 quid a day,
all right,
175 quid a day or something, to run around delivering film cans. I was like made up, but then in TV, I think it was about 200 quid a week, and you were working, proper 60-hour weeks, first in, last out, making tea all day. But I was in a comedy department, and I thought, well, this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool as well, isn't it?
You're building your CV as well, though, weren't you? Because you were obviously...
Exactly. But at that time, I did actually walk around, I just walked around Soho. I just knocked on doors and handed in this crappy CV and just tried to get FaceTime and just, blah, blah, blah. And that actually did work.
I like that, because it shows initiative. And to be honest, when people do it to me...
Yeah, it's better.
We brought a girl on to the film I just finished, The Stranger in Our Bed, Ellie Wells. I was in the car with the producer, Dean Fisher, when she rang up. And she'd already been trying to ring up, and how she got his phone number, she'd been round the houses to get it, and because she rang up and made the effort, she said, I live in the area, I know you're filming, could you give me a chance? We did, and she was fantastic. Amazing on set. It's important to do that.
Yeah, I'm sure she was, because she had hustle and she wanted to be there.
Yeah, she was amazing. So it does make a difference, so you have to do that. You have to.
Yeah, you have to. And then, so long story short is that, that week that I covered someone in that department, I kind of did a good job, really. I was a good runner, I make good tea. I'm helpful. I literally would run.
People notice, though, Will, don't they? You notice if someone's good. You notice if someone's bad as well. But
of course. The game plan's still there. I'll still get access to kit. I'll keep meeting people. And, as I will go, I will just make stuff in my spare time, basically. I'll go off and make these shorts, and I'll do all of that.
Because you did. You made the first short you officially made, because it's on IMDb, was Rosie in 2012, and then Slap in 2013, and another one for Rent. Was this the point where you were like, look, I'm getting okay work in TV. It's not necessarily where I want to go. And like you say, you started to branch out and go, I'm going to make my own path here. I'm going to make some shorts.
Yeah, 100%. It was a case of... I mean, I often, I've said sort of before, because I got up the ranks pretty quick as well in TV. Although I had a long time sort of running, which what I was doing there was scanning.
Yeah, you're meeting people. They need to know Will's a cool guy. Actually, bring him on. He's good at this. That's what it's about. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think within about 5 years, I'd got to like a producer-director sort of level, which, you know, is sort of respectable. I mean, sure, there's quicker. I'm sure there's a lot longer. There's another thing with TV where there's a bit of a glass ceiling, you know, after PD. I mean, that's it really. You could see that, okay, well, even though I've got to this level, no one's ever going to hire me for that drama or comedy director's gig, because that's just they just don't look at you in that way.
Is that because you're doing more light entertainment stuff rather than because you were like Paul O'Grady show, things like that? It was Lenny Henry. It was much more comedy based stuff. It wasn't like, say, a drama or a comedy drama. It was light entertainment.
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't even know how you get director work. I honestly don't, you know. But I can tell you that being a PD is not, you know, you have to get very lucky, and you have to be in the right place at the right time, basically. Say like a people do nothing, just do nothing, you know, those kind of, I've worked on 2 or 3 things like that you're in a development deal with the BBC or something like that, and you get close and it just doesn't go anywhere, like most things don't. And that's how I would have got hired as a director, and then suddenly been like, oh, okay, I'm a director. But as a producer director, you're kind of, you know, you're that, and whether it's fact entertainment, any type really, reality, whatever it is, you know, it's kind of looked upon as, you know, you do it all. You shoot, you do sound, you produce, you direct. You know, it's a nightmare.
With all that experience, Will, then it must have made it so much easier for you to go off and make a short film then.
Yeah, to go off and then make a short film, I was just very confident of like, let's just go and do it. It was always the script. It was always the writing. That was always the problem. That was what always sort of held everything up, to be honest with you.
Right. And do you think you got better at the writing over time then? Because obviously Silent Night's written very well, and that's just you writing it. I mean, obviously you get help with people, but how did you learn to become a better writer?
Well, no, what I did is I wrote for Rent, and very much like Breakham, it was such a long, laborious, killer process. Like, I'm not doing that again. Right. Basically, let's find writers, you know, and that's sort of what I did. We had a script that was in development with the company, and I was sort of attached to direct it. Okay. Went into turnaround after, 18 months or something.
And this is a feature, you're saying?
That was a feature, yeah. That experience was very much formed all of Silent Night, because when that went into turnaround, and when I hadn't been the writer and I had no ownership over that project in any way, shape or form, other than, conversations and kind of like, oh, it'd be great we could do this. It was just kind of like, I was just back to square one. But I was, I'd lost another 18 months, 2 years of my life thinking, getting these near bites to what you're trying to do.
I think this happens to a lot of first-time filmmakers. There's no question about it, Lucinda, right? You're on this path to try and make a film, and so many people listening to this podcast are going, how do I make my first film? Which is why it's fascinating talking to you, Will, especially your journey. And the fact for me and Lucinda, certainly for me, I got burnt so many times, I got hurt so many times and mainly because I just had one project, and like you said, Will, just one project, and I hadn't written it, or if we had, it just went off in the wrong hands, or there was real problems. And it sometimes takes you to write it, get your stamp on it, certainly have contracts in place, and then move forward with it. Even if that doesn't happen, at least you've done that. You had some ownership of it. But there's nothing worse than it getting taken off your hands, and you're not involved anymore. You're not directing it. Did that
also, Giles,
Lucinda,
on previous podcasts, you've said, which is great to just bring that up again, because the pain of losing a project is awful, especially being your first. So having several juggling at once, it's not so painful when you lose one. Which is something you said a couple of podcasts ago, Giles, and it's worth remembering.
I totally agree.
Important.
Yeah, just don't have just the one. And I know that's easier said than done because you spent ages writing one, but then come on board someone else's as well, and then try and write another one. And over the years, suddenly you've now got 3 projects that you own, and whether they get made or not, at least you own them. And at least that hurt and pain of someone just going, yeah, no, you're not doing this anymore, it isn't going to happen to you. And I think that's great advice. So that did happen to you, Will. So you were like, right, I'm not going to let this happen with Silent Night. You said, right, or your next film. At the time, you probably didn't know it's Silent Night. And how did you go about making Silent Night then? You're at this stage now where you've got a career behind you. You can earn money by doing PD jobs on TV or video director jobs on TV. How did you go about going, I want to be a filmmaker, I want to actually make feature films?
Yeah, well, I suppose one of the good things at this point was that, you know, I was making moves and it felt like I was meeting more people and it was getting closer. I think there's kind of an important thing, actually, that I kind of... from I think even Breakham's kind of a weird one. It's kind of mad that that got made and it's just sort of historic and it's in there. But when I made For Rent, again, it was one of these ones where I took time off work. I had to really go, okay, I'm going to turn down work. I'm going to turn down jobs, everything.
And that, I think you're right there, Will. Sometimes you do have to do that. Because otherwise, like you said, you could have taken another job that takes you out for another 3 months or whatever. But if you sometimes have to be brave. And if the real thing you want to do is make films or build planes, you go and do that. Otherwise, you end up not doing that and it's too late.
Yeah, 100%. And that's just committing. It's committing, isn't it, basically? I was like, no, you know, I don't care. Even if it's a big money job, even if it was whatever, I want a comedy gig that I was going after or whatever. No, I'm doing this short film and it's happening. And the great thing about that and committing is that then that translates to everyone you speak to and all the crew and everyone who you're kind of wrangling and going, hey, come on this journey. You know, they can see it. They can see the madness in your eyes and they go, all right, this dude's actually going to do it. You know, and I started believing. And it was kind of a feeling I got in my gut. I had this feeling with Silent Night a bit later down the line, was like, I just knew it was going to happen. And I kind of got that. And it's such a great feeling when you know, this thing's going to happen, because then you sort of double down.
Oh, you've got it 100%. And it was around that time, right, that you had another script, feature film script on the go, but that fell apart. But you used some of that script to inform Silent Night.
Yeah, so the point was with that script is it was about kind of a serial killer that was on the road. And so when all of this fell apart, you know, I kind of dug up everything we'd been doing there. And, you know, obviously it'd been at the back of my mind anyway, hadn't quite gone away. And I looked at it and was like, okay, so serial killer on the road, you know, I know I don't necessarily, it doesn't have horror, maybe not, but, you know, really, I want to do a thriller. I want to do this kind of stuff. It's got the elements. Let me grab the core elements and let me sort of try and develop it and come up with it.
And make Goodfellas. You know what I mean? You're
rip off Goodfellas and rip off all the other directors I loved and all the rest of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So then I kind of had this thing of, you know, I was just stewing for ages on the elements that we hadn't managed to get going, and it was essentially a serial killer on the road. So it's like, okay, you know, he needed a purpose, and I can't remember, around the time it was like, well, let's just make him a hitman. We just basically needed someone going around killing people. Let's just make him a hitman, because then he's got a job. Again, having been through, so with that film that had fallen apart, it was a little bit high concept. It definitely had high budget, so it was sort of never going to get made with us as first time filmmakers anyway. You know, you look back at it. So I just knew, like, this was a kind of, look, if I have to stick the camera on my shoulder and shoot this feature, this is how this feature is going to go down. I was at that point. It's like, this is going to be low budget as hell. We just I have to build this idea and script from that position, basically. So it's like, right, now we've got a guy who's got to go around killing. All right, well, he's not going up the M1. That's for certain. It's going to be happening in London, so we can just do it on our doorstep. And then I don't know where. Yeah, we've been doing Sutton and all South London, then too easy. Then I don't know when the White Van Man idea came into it, but it was just thinking low rent, you know, what can we get that's just doable?
Cheap.
What's the cheapest thing? Well, white van, you know what, there's a lot of white van men that drive around London. That's a thing, isn't it? And I already knew if you're going to set it in London, which is where we were, this is kind of going to be a Brit gangster film. You know, there's no getting away from that. Even, you know, like I said at the start, for me was a British crime thriller, but that you can't sort of do that without being coupled in with the Brit gangster thing. But I knew that there was an audience, and London crime films and gangster films got picked up, they got made and distributed. That was very tactical.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you find it difficult to write, or you did. Maybe you find it much easier now. What was your process like? Were you very much like, look, I've got a kind of basic idea, white van man driving around, he's a hitman. How did you actually structure that as a film? Because it is well structured. It's a very well structured feature for your first, feature film as a screenwriter.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Thank you.
There's a lot of sort of, I mean, the development of the script was a long time, and I think that was another thing that I was very kind of particular about. I was like, it just has to be good. It has to be great. The script.
Did you get feedback then on it? Were you sending it around a lot?
Yeah. Okay. So that's how I structured that from day one. I did the same thing as I've done with all my shorts. It's like, right, that's it. No more work. I think whenever it was, like start of 2015, not interested, taking 3 months off, and I'm just going to bash this script out. 3 months, too easy. Not too easy at all.
Yes, it's really difficult.
It was horrible. So no, I used some, the classic things. You've got the screenplay book, you got, little things like that.
All these screenplay books. Yeah,
these things, loads. You're essentially procrastinating, really. That's what you're really doing. Anyway, long story short, after 3 months, I think I did grind out kind of a draft, and then I just sent it to a bunch of people, and some people were like, I don't know what's going on here, Will, but I think you need to figure out some stuff. And then I had to basically go back to work.
Basically, you need to figure out some stuff.
Mentally.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort your shit out.
Yeah, like generally as a director, or as a kind of. The details, it's like, fuck the details, you get it, he's the bad guy that
fuck
came
the
in.
Details, let's just shoot
fuck
this.
The details, to quote. Fuck this on the t-shirt, fuck the details.
Yeah, it's just, like, you get it, you've seen it before, come on. Sure. That's working that stuff out. It's just like, oh, really? It seems like producing is like, I'm doing a HMRC, it was not...
Tax return.
Yeah, I'm in awe of writers. I literally can just about text... and even they're dodgy, but I mean, all writers that can, create and focus and create something that can be lifted off the page. I've tried to write a treatment once or twice and I failed epically. You guys are amazing. I don't know how you do it.
It's hard. It's
a skill.
So hard.
But like as you mentioned earlier about Noel Clarke's podcast last week, is that it's about necessity. And if you wanted to be a director, therefore you had to have your own script, you had to own it, therefore you had to write it. So out of necessity, you had to write your script, learn how to do that properly. And like say, it's almost 1 for 1 with you, which is an incredible record. I've written so many screenplays that, won't see the light of day. So, but it's also your experience and it's not like you're 18 and you've written a screenplay, you're at the stage of your life where you made a lot of stuff. You understood film, you understood the language of film, which I think experience does teach you. So now you've got your screenplay. You've done that. How do you go from there to actually getting it made? Because this is the bit that a lot of people struggle with. Some people can write a screenplay and it's there, but how do you go from that to raising the finance to actually getting your actors, getting it produced, production managed and shot?
Yeah, well, again, it's a little bit like that thing I said earlier. Is like, having done it all, I still don't know how you do that stuff because we didn't raise the finance. We didn't, we made a no budget film, which is a kind of like, okay, we don't have a budget. Let's try and get it for free. And if we can't, let's just pay as little as we can. And then whatever the film gets made for. So was it
self-funded, Will? Did you self-fund it yourself?
Yeah. So self-funded, yeah. I suppose.
So it was self-funded. So basically a micro budget.
Yeah,
basically, this is what we describe it as. Yeah, so you made this for peanuts.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to say how much you made it for?
I never really know whether we should or shouldn't.
You definitely should.
You definitely should.
Oh, really? Right.
Well, we know you definitely shouldn't, but actually it's really interesting for our listeners to know, because if you've sold this in a lot of territories now already. UK's done, it's dusted, you can watch the movie here, so therefore it doesn't affect it. It's only in other countries where they know what you've made it for,
Well,
sometimes they put the offer lower.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, is I remember, so we got an international sales agent, and I remember saying to him, yeah, you know, like, the film punches above its weight, and it was kind of like, I should, you know, it was like Sonny Corleone, I showed a card, they were like, oh, right, so how much did you, you know, and it's kind of...
And then they offer you less.
Well,
yes, you've got to be very careful.
And I
sometimes.
think, I mean, you know...
I just want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know too.
You
Is
can
this
text
off
us.
record though? I text you. No, we
So
made it for
basics of
as my producer Mark said, we made it for 50p in a Mars bar. So, and it wasn't really much above that, to be honest with you.
And do you know what? It's very impressive. It's really impressive.
Because it doesn't look like it, right? And that's not me being gassed.
Like
that's the first thing everyone said, is like, wow, this looks like an actual film, you know? And that's what I'm quite proud of.
I hate it when people say that. There's nothing worse, is there?
That's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
It always
good,
makes me
actually.
laugh.
It wasn't bad, you know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, mate, honestly, you've done really well. It's incredible that you did make this for nothing. Was that always the intention then?
No. I've got, I can take you. It's as kind of depressing as it is for anyone who's listening. So I finished the script. And because I'd been meeting film people, and one of the these execs have been saying is, oh, are you going to go to Berlin this year, Will? And my missus was German, so I was kind of like, I think he knew that connection, all the rest of it. And he kept saying it, and I kept thinking, why? What am I going to do in Berlin? I don't have a film in Berlin. I knew what Berlin Film Festival was, but
it's more of a market of Berlin.
Well, but I didn't even know the market. Yeah, this is what I mean. I didn't know anything. Like, he just kept saying it, and so but just because of that, I was like, well, let me look up why. Perhaps I should be in Berlin, basically. And then you quickly find out, there's the EFM, and then so you go, okay. And around this time, I was actually making another film, One Man in His Shoes. This is the other thing with Silent Night. I made it concurrently with another film, which is a bit of a nightmare in a way. But actually, I'd made a taster for Silent Night as well. That opening scene, that opening scene, which never made the film in the end, that informed a short that I made probably when I should have been writing. I went off and made that. But I had a script and I had a taster. And I went to Berlin, went to EFM.
Which is the European film market, for anyone who doesn't know. Yeah.
And I just walked around and I just spoke to anyone. Yeah. And I just doorstep sales agents and people. Obviously, now a few years down the line, it's just mental to think what the hell I was thinking or doing.
Especially because they're not there looking for projects, are they? They're not there. This is the thing about markets, so everyone knows. That's why Cannes are worth going to, because there is producers there who are potentially looking for projects. But EFM or AFM, they're not looking for they're there to buy projects. That's it. People are there to sell already made projects. So if you're there with script in hand, knocking on doors, people are just like, they're just going to fob you off to the assistant or the receptionist, God bless them, who's just going to get you going, I've got this amazing idea, and they're like, yeah,
exactly.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah,
contact us. Here's the email of someone. They give you a business card and it's all over.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is they're like, oh, well, we're in London, so just meet me there, and you're just thinking, you're never going to meet me in London, which I think it was more helpful for the doc being there. I mean, it was a kind of a complete and utter waste of time. But
One Man in His Shoes is the doc. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but at the same time, that's where I met Judd Tillyard. So, I mean, I would always recommend going to markets, having been there and done it. Yeah, you can walk around. I walked around and everyone custard pied me, and I took it, and I met a bunch of people. My instincts were right, It's just, it was like, who the fuck are you? Where's your talent attached? This is a tin pot operation. Like, what are you talking about?
You're like, yeah, it is. It's me wandering around. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's me just bumbling in, going, hey, it's my first market, help.
But you have to start somewhere, and I think people should be kind to first-time filmmakers as well, because one day you're not going to be a first-time filmmaker, and you will have A-list cast attached, hopefully. And I think that sales agents and distributors should be kind to first-time filmmakers. A lot of them are, actually. Giles and I are lucky enough to work with some very good people.
Absolutely.
And, there are a lot that will open the door to people, even if you've just got a teaser and a script. It's rare, but it does happen.
But at least you've got that. That's the thing, isn't it, Lucinda? At least you were turning up with something. You were saying, look, I've got a script in this, which is better than turning up and going, I've got an idea. Yeah. You know what I mean? And just saying an idea. At least they could say, cool, well, look, at least you've got something. Send me that. And if I've got time, I might have a look. Or if they're like you, which is often the case, they might go, yeah, I remember. And that's the other thing as well. If you do meet these people at these festivals and you are writing to them, say something that they might remember. So when you do write, you can say, remember, I bought this chocolate brownie to you, or whatever the hell it is.
Remember, I told you that really shit joke.
Remember I told you that really shit joke, yeah. Yeah, that, but anything, because then you remember them, won't you?
Remember when I turned up at your hotel?
In just a slip.
There was a sales agent, they're not running anymore. There's a sales agent that I met years ago in Cannes, and his wife was called Lucinda. And that was always, every time I emailed, it was like, hi, it's me, Lucinda, not your wife. So it was like kind of one of that, I held on to that.
It's an in. Always look for the in, people. It's so important to have that in. Don't just be like everyone else. You've got to try and have that hook or have something different.
So after Berlin, where it didn't go as successfully as you hoped, was that the year that you made Silent Night on Nothing? What year was it?
No, so then that was, so this was 2016, I went to Berlin, and then that's where I met Judd. See, that's what I'm saying, is like, even though it was a complete shit show for my whole film getting made, it was the key person I actually met who did get it made, 3 years later. And what happened is I met Judd, and, he, like, great, whatever, pitched it, he sort of liked it, all the rest of it, and then, sent me the script, hassled him, have you read it? And he said, I'm going to read it, I'm going to be back in Europe for Cannes. Are you going to be at Cannes? Yeah, sure. Met him at Cannes, and he's like, I read it, it's not great. have you got any other ideas?
I love how honest he was.
I was just like,
not great.
God. He's like, have you got any other ideas? I was like, I've got loads of other ideas, but I've just spent a fucking year writing a script, mate. So can we focus on this one, please?
Better.
Or just just forget the other ideas. How do we make this one work? And
yeah.
I think also he had a producer hat on. He's going, well, thrillers, do they sell well, blah, blah, blah. And he'd seen a bunch of stuff that I had done was comedy and stuff like that. And it was heartbreaking. That was a heartbreaking meeting, I have to say. And I sort of had to pick myself up after that a little bit. No one else had come back. No one else after Cannes. I still was meeting people in Cannes. At that point, he was just another hopeful lead. He'd said in the meeting, well, I'm not too interested in doing this, but, we've got scripts and da-da-da. So after a while, I just went back and said, look, what scripts you got? Because I just fucking want to direct something, mate. So, even if it's a year gone, I don't care. I just want to, I'm desperate. I'm getting more desperate with every year. And
which doesn't look great, does it, to producers if you're looking desperate? And that's the thing, isn't it? Because you get to that point, and this is a fascinating thing to touch on, that people who are trying to make a film do get, I've got to make a film, I'm not making a film. I was for 10 years.
Start worrying,
really
don't they? Yeah.
You start worrying, you go, oh my God, I'm reading all these books, I'm listening to podcasts. Oh, no, there wasn't podcasts then. But you had that feeling of, I'm reading all these books about how to make a film, but I can't make a fucking film.
Yeah.
And it does get frustrating. Yeah. And that can come across, and you've got to be really careful. That's why it's good to be making other stuff, whether it's shorts, promos, music videos during that time, so you don't come across as desperate, or who is this person who's saying, I've got to make a feature.
Also, if you haven't directed for a certain amount of time and people look at your CV, I've heard execs and other producers, not ourselves, but other producers say, well, they haven't made a film for X amount of years, so there must be something wrong with them. And actually, well, no, there's probably nothing wrong with them. They just haven't got it financed, or they've been focusing on other areas, or they've been creating and writing scripts, even though you hate writing.
Yeah, it's true though.
It is hard. So I said, look, have you got any scripts? He said, nah, you should be doing something that, you want to do. And we ended up developing and kind of writing another thing. And as I was writing that, I had Bradley come back going, dude, what the fuck is going on? you wrote this film, it wasn't that bad. We did a read through, it's not finished, but so I met Judd in Cannes the following year and said, here's the script that I've been writing, which is it's cool and it's getting there, but I take ages to write. This is going to take ages to finish, I'm going to stick a camera on my shoulder and just fucking shoot Silent Night just to get Bradley off my back and to get the monkey off my back. And, it's just got to happen now. that's going to be quicker than this. And he was like, oh, well, if you're going to do it for no money, then I'll help you. Basically is what he said. If you're that passionate and you can actually, drag this thing in for as little money as, as little risk for me as possible, then, I'll go in 50-50 with you. And so, that's what we did.
That is amazing. See, I like that. That to me is a really cool story because anyone can say your script isn't good enough. Anyone can put you down as a filmmaker because it just might not be their bag.
Yes.
Or they might just feel like, oh, I've seen that recently, or I'm not interested. There's so many reasons why someone would say no. But if you're passionate about it and it's your baby and you care about it and you think it's good, and so do the people around you who want to make it with you, go make it. You can do it.
Yeah, for sure. Just go and make it because there's so many people that are going to say no. So many people trying to stop you creating. And I think just go and do it. And then it will lead to your next one because you've got a feature film on your CV or the doc as well.
And this is the thing. So many people, for me, before I'd made a feature, were saying, we haven't made a feature yet. And I say this all the time, and I really believe it. Even if that feature's not amazing, it doesn't matter. Someone like Lucinda, myself, other big Ian Sharp producers will look at that and go, well, they've been through the trenches. They understand what QC is. They understand what, posts like and how to sell the movie and how to put it on posters, or at least understand that world in some way. And that saves so much effort and time for a producer. They go, okay, well, they've done that. They've actually gone through it. They didn't give up and quit. And especially on the lower budget scale, it's really important. So now you're in the stage where you go, cool, we're doing this ourselves. You've got Judd on board as a helper, which is perfect. He's saying he's coming in with you 50-50. It's you, it's Mark, it's Bradley Taylor as your lead, also playing a character called Mark. Now you're ready to go. How did you go about doing it? Because you've got no money. How did you find locations? How did you find the rest of the cast? How did you get your camera?
I mean, I just pounded the pavements. Basically, it was just like, right, we don't have money.
You sold your body?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Straight down the common.
Didn't get much, did you, Will?
I didn't.
No. Like you say, micro budget.
It started with kind of locations, really. Mark was like, you got a shit ton of locations here, mate. You need to start getting them in place. Like, okay, I better start going out.
So important locations to do first.
Yeah. And there's a bit of a joke with Silent Night. It's like, the idea was like, oh, we'll make this low budget film, just two guys in a white van. It's like, well, the white van has to fucking drive places. So we ended up with a ton of locations for like a no budget film. There's a crazy amount of locations. So I just tackled that first. Same process before, right? There was a guy who kept trying to hire me, even in pre-production. He was like, just come and do a day for me here. And, I'm turning down good money. And he's just like, no, I need to, go and work for zero money and shove all of my life savings into this. I don't want your work. Thank you very much. And
But call me in a couple of months because then I will.
Yeah, please,
please call me back.
Or I'll be back in Tesco's.
Yeah, exactly. And so, just started looking for locations. I mean, like I say, Bradley came into his own, sort of helping to bail out water when it came to casting. Because of Mark's background, he was very much he did a lot of the AD kind of prep for the film and helped that kind of process. Because I knew it was going to be such a nightmare filming it. That's why I was very particular about the script. It's like, well, if the script's solid, I know that even if it all goes to shit, we're probably going to come out of it okay because, the script was good. So it was working with people like Joel and Nat and Carrie and Bradley.
How'd you get Frank? Mr. Frank Harper?
Yeah, so then Frank was he was the missing piece, basically. And he was, he was like such a nice guy. And, he was, the film was always, it was part of the design of the film. It was like, we need a name and that will be the bad guy who can come in and do the 3 or 4 days,
and Frank had been in Bend It Like Beckham, Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels. He's known for his gangster roles as well, which is probably something you were thinking about.
Yeah.
Now your locations, did you use a lot of your friends' houses? Did you use your house? Because obviously you haven't got any budget. So what did you do there?
Oh yeah, like it's a joke. Like when I can't watch Silent Night without just going, this is just a joke, isn't it? Like that's my mum's house.
Oh, really?
That's my dad's house. That's my mate's mum's house where we grew up.
Will they ever let you use it again for the next movie, or were they? Because you know what it's like when a crew descends on a
My dad won't. My dad's like, no, don't fucking ever come back to me. You know, he's like still cleaning blood off the walls and all that stuff.
What did you do for insurance then for some stuff like that? Did you have, I take it you had insurance in place?
Yeah. So the good thing is look, we didn't have any money, but we had a lot of experienced people and we did things properly, you know, to a point. Mm-hmm. Yep. Some days, you know, you're figuring things out. And my big take home was you can do things for no money. It's just going to take forever because you have to go to, you know, there's a Chinese restaurant that's in the film. Mm-hmm. I lost count. I went to every Chinese restaurant in South London trying to get, and I found places that I love. I was like, oh, this fucking looks so cool, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, you go, you knock on the door, you get told no 100 times, and then you find someone, and then you go, you know, I don't know, can you do it for 300 quid? You know, and they're like, no, and then suddenly they just won't even talk to you anymore.
Well, they can't shut the restaurant down, and you can't afford to pay for the restaurant to be shut down.
I was finding ones that I knew were closed on a Monday. You know, I was trying every single angle. I was like, look, you're closed. We just need to, we won't hassle you. Just need to, you know, like, you got a fish tank. No, until, you know, and then things like that, you know, you build it from the ground up, you know, like if you're not finding that Chinese location, well, we have to pay, you know, we're going to have to pay, guys, you know, and then you just have to dig deep and find that money. And so it's a very sort of but, you know, taking time to do that stuff, there will be a bunch of other ones, you know, if you go to 10 mechanics garages, you know, one of them will let you do it for like a couple of $100 quid.
One of them might have been burnt
know?
by another film company beforehand, and be like, I'd love that.
That is the thing.
And my daughter's an actress. Could you put her in it? You know, it's stuff like that.
The funny thing is about filmmaking, like, you know, you're at the EFM or you're at Cannes, you're pitching your movie. Then you're just at a mechanics garage pitching your movie, like everyone you speak to, because you have to, right? You have to do that same passion. You know, why are you going to let me do it? Because you can see I'm a nutter and I'm from around the corner and I just want to do it. And, you know, I promise we won't cause too much trouble. And all right, Will, yeah, fair enough. We'll let you do it, whatever. You know, that's sort of how we did it, you know. So I think knowing that things are going to take a lot of time, that's always my big advice to people is get started, because it's going to take so much longer than you think.
How long was pre-production? How long was the shoot and how long was post?
So pre-production, so I just quit work in October and we shot at the very end.
Sorry.
2018. So, and I pretty much just worked 6-7 days. I just worked full time. I treated it like a sport. I would just get up and like, right, you know, it was just like, just focus, just do it. It was brutal. So yeah, it was like 3-4 months of like me doing that. And Mark actually lived in Edinburgh at this point, but he'd come down and sort of help push things on, or he'd be pushing things on from afar. I had Bradley helping with casting during this kind of time. And then the shoot was, I think it was 18 days.
That's good. That's a good length of time.
So we knew, okay, let's do 2 separate blocks. And we knew we were going to have to do pickups. So let's not only do pickups, but we'll do all the studio stuff, like 2 days of just hammering that out, and then 2 days of pickups. Obviously, as you probably know, as you go along, things are getting dropped. And having that pickups, you're like, oh, we'll just push it to pickups. And the pickups got bigger and bigger. And yeah, that became horrible and laborious. And even during the pickups, we would wrap. And me and Bradley and Carrie would go and do pickups of the pickups ourselves in our own little second unit. You know, like once you'd killed everyone for 12 hours and they had to go home, we'd go off and shoot other little pickups and little bits and bobs ourselves.
So you were proper candle both ends at this point, because you are producing, you had written it, you're directing it now. And how did you find directing then, in terms of this is different to a short? You're now doing this over a longer period of time and arcs of characters. How was that for you and how did it feel?
Yeah, it felt great. I just like I can't say how much I loved it. I just felt like this is where I'm supposed to be. I just was like, I dreamt of this moment for over 20 years. I was there. I was kind of living the dream, and I kind of just. I mean, people might not say that, but I was. That's how I felt. And I remember going to the edit after the first week, just having a look at some rushes on like the one day off, and the editor was like, "Oh yeah, so you're right." And I think he was just expecting me to just be a wreck and just like, "Oh, it's all going wrong," and I was just really chirpy because I was just like, yeah, it's actually happening. And I love being on set anyway. I love being on location, all that. It's just sort of that for me is the sandpit, it's like, this is not a job, I'm like, I've stacked shelves, like this is great. This is fun. Yeah. And I think because I'd written it and produced it and because it'd been going on so long and I prepped so hard in pre-production, and that's what that was all kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to be on set, kind of Teflon. Like, I know this. I know what I'm doing. So there, and obviously we had to think on our feet. I mean, there was days where we still didn't have a location fixed, and in the morning I'm driving around recce trying to find a location for that afternoon.
Yeah, I've done that.
So there's loads of like blagging and figuring out, don't get me wrong. But I think for a lot of like the meaty stuff or the stuff, or even like we did a one shot, that just got figured out. We kind of knew where we're going, but that was like, we shot all morning, then we got to this location. Half your crowd's not there. We didn't have a car, which is a massive prop to end. All that stuff's just happening in the background. You're kind of going, oh yeah, you're sort of getting told in your ear, yeah, we still don't have a car. And you're sort of going, yeah, I mean, I wrote that in the script, 2 years ago, and we've always needed a car. Why haven't we got a car? Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to have to go and look with a DP over here, and hopefully someone's going to turn up with a car. So there's loads of blagging and dealing with stuff, but. I prepped.
Will, was the assembly happening during the shoot?
It was, but not to that sort of degree where you could be like, hey, let's watch the rushes in the evening and, know what we got. It was a workflow.
Skim through it, yeah. It was a
DIT'd. Well, yeah, it was as much getting in. And I saw maybe by the end of the second week, I could go along and have a look at a few kind of assemblies and stuff. But to be honest, by the end of the second week, I kind of needed a day off. But yeah, obviously there's technical problems. There was, for some stuff we had to use an FS7 for like gimbal stuff.
Gimbals.
And that anamorphically was not working.
Of course.
And, so I mean, how great is it now that, the editor can just send me a photo on WhatsApp and kind of be like, the camera assistant's going, well, actually it's this. And you're going, well, the editor's just sent me that.
It's really helpful.
You can sort of figure, so, that sort of stuff was going on.
So you finish the shoot, you're very happy, then you jump straight into the edit. Craig Cool's your editor, fantastic editor on it for you. But then how did you actually sell the movie? How did you get it out there? How did you get it for everyone to see now? Because obviously Lightbulb Media did come on distribution, I should say.
At this point, I'm back on a TV gig. I'm like absolutely broke.
Money, yeah.
I'm just like, I'm like, see you later. I don't care anymore. But yeah, I remember being like sat in a production office and getting an email from a sales agent going like, we'd love to rep your film. And I was like, I could almost feel like a tear. I was just like,
lovely. Those moments.
We did it.
Those moments are wonderful.
But then you looked at the contract.
Yeah, exactly.
Hang on,
yeah.
Are we going to make any money from this?
Yeah. Well, then we decided, look, let's just get this really tight, really polished, everything, and then let's go back to some of these people because we kind of know there's interest, but let's like get it really good. Then let's go to someone like maybe let's just aim high. Let's see. And even if they say no, at least they know you. And so obviously then you get a bunch of no's, a lot of people kind of dither around. And then, it's funny because 2020, it was kind of, it was such a weird year, and I was really pushing. I wanted it done. I was very aware that because it's set at Christmas, we wanted to get it out at Christmas, and you need it done and dusted by August. You need a sales and distribution by August. Because they need that lead time to sell it in. Yeah. So we had that hard deadline, which was great, and we were getting filmed. But there was a question of like, do we just hold this back? We could just hold. We knew we had a decent film. It was tight and all the rest of it, and one thing that we needed to do was just get some decent artwork. We spoke to a couple of people that made film posters, and one of them happened to go, hey, you should, do you know Lightbulb, basically? And at that time, there was, I think we were talking to one or two other people, and yeah, it got sent to them. And I liked the look of them, and then we got them on the phone, that they watched it, and I think they got back like the next day, which is always cool, you know, like after spending so much time, you know, that thing of like find champions for your project, you know, it's like clearly these guys are into it. And yeah, like as all sales and distributors, they thought it was a good game. They sort of said, yeah, this is a solid film. We think we can do this. We think we could even get it on DVD. We can get it out this Christmas. And, you know, it's like, wow, okay, let's do it. And also the thing was, is being such a British film, we knew we had to get it distributed in the UK before anyone else around the world was going to give a shit, basically, because, you know, we were you know, it is a very, we play on British tropes in the film, you know, it was very much in there for that reason. So yeah, so it was kind of like, do you know what, let's go with these guys, let's get it out in the UK and let's just do it. It's been around for long enough now, it's been 5 years, let's get it done.
And suddenly now you've got a movie out there in the world, in lockdown, and DVDs out there, you know, on shelves, and that's an incredible achievement, mate, for your first feature film, you know, made on, you know, micro budget, let's say, and it really is, it's incredible. And what have you been doing during that time to get the film out there in the world? Obviously podcasts like this and promos and interviews, but what have you found is the best way to promote a movie like this for a first time filmmaker?
Well, we, you know, through Lightbulb, we worked with Strike Media, who do PR. I don't know if you know those guys. I do know Strike, yeah, I mean, they've been amazing. Can't sing their praises any higher. And, you know, in this industry, you know, we chatted about this the other day, Joe, there's middlemen at every point of the, you know, every step of the way, there's someone. And, you know, you can try and you can either pay them and they will generally help you get to that next step, or you can try and do it yourself and it's going to take you loads of time and energy and you may not do a better job, you know. And I think undoubtedly they, you know, did great things for us. But no, that was very strategic, that I felt like, look, let's get us in the cinema, let's try and get a seat at the top table, let's just get critics can't ignore us if we're on the FDA, the film distribution.
Well, that's the difference. Calendar. You get into cinemas, then suddenly the bigger reviewers have to pay attention and they have to go, oh, okay, here's a movie made for nothing, which can be a hindrance and it can be a blessing. You get more press, but at the same time, a lot of the big boys decide to don't care how much you made it for. They don't care, you know, what happened on the day, all the problems you had. They just see it as the same as, you know, Avengers or whatever, and they compare and you're kind of like, well, hang on, we had a Mars bar and 10 pence, you know.
Yeah.
And that could be a problem. Yeah.
There's definitely no brownie points for that at all, and that's something that you kind of have to live with, because you're walking around going, I'm the only one that knows. And it wasn't even really a press angle. No one really kind of, you know, obviously people could see it was low budget and people kind of referred to, you know, it was a bit of a low budget, but whatever. But yeah, you're just going, yeah, if you knew, if only you knew.
I know, but the things
because
that
actually
care,
it's such
right?
No, but it's such an achievement for you as a producer to go, look what we made on nothing. I mean, I'm very proud of some of the low budget indies that myself and Jeet have made, but nobody cares, and we're like, yeah, but look what we did on nothing. It's amazing, and they're like, no,
it doesn't matter, does it? But it's amazing. It is, like Lucinda said, it's an incredible achievement as a producer, but also as a director, writer for your first movie. You know, how you got it made. You got the team together. You got friends. You got help. You shot in locations nearby. You did everything you could by asking. You prepared your ass off, and you ended up making your film, getting distributed by one of the big up and coming distributors at the moment. You got it in cinemas, and you got it out on DVD, mate. It's an incredible achievement. Well done.
It's nuts. Thanks a lot. Yeah. is.
Amazing. What a
surreal.
journey. And thank you so much for joining us on this week's Filmmakers Podcast. Honestly, someone's got to edit this. It's 2 hours and that will probably be me.
Oh, God, I'm so sorry, man.
It's all right.
No, we love the long story shorts.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Well done.
Yeah, really well done. I'm excited to see what you do next. Obviously, One Man in His Shoes is out now. It's an amazing documentary, but Silent Night, that Will produce, wrote and direct, is available now on DVD and online. So iTunes is the best place for it. Amazon, is that correct for people to find it?
Yeah, Sky Store, like Rakuten, Virgin Media. The Lightbulb guys did great. Yeah, it's on Amazon, iTunes. And if you want to get yourself down at Asda, Sainsbury's or Morrison's, it's sat there on shelves right now. So,
but not Tesco's. Fuck those guys.
Yeah.
Amazing. What more do you want? Do go support indie films if you can. Thank you all so much for listening. Honestly, it means the world to me, to us, to everyone involved in the Filmmakers Podcast. Thank you. Like I said, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we do have some shout outs this week for some amazing people. So here we go. Warren Badensky, Stephen Russell, Matthew BC, Matt Steen, Martin Neely, Lee Greenhow, Joshua Takax, Louise Ann Monroe, Robert McFarland, Laura Moskop, Andy Fosbury, Oliver Milburn, he'll be on the podcast soon, Jesse Quinones, Jane Gull, Mark Coleman, Martin Sweeney, Karina Burrell, Rain McCormack, Richard Miller, Jason Mazza, Maxwell Cavanham and George Popoff. Amazing. Thank you for all your support and love and help this week, last couple of weeks in fact. Amazing. So if you haven't, like I say, listened yet to the Noel Clarke episode, which was last week, which was our 200th episode, then do go back and listen to that. Now's the time. Go listen now. Go listen now. You won't be disappointed. We have some amazing guests coming up for you this year. I cannot wait to tell you who they are. I'm not going to yet though. But they are absolutely superb. Many indie filmmakers and many stars and names you will recognise as well. It's going to be a big year for the Filmmakers Podcast, so do stick with us. And if you want to follow the podcast at Filmmakers Pod on Twitter, and we are everywhere now. We're on Instagram, The Filmmakers Podcast, or Facebook. And if you've liked this podcast, then please do go onto iTunes and give us a brilliant 5-star review and tell your pals about it, because that's how we grow. And remember, you can go out there and make your indie film. You can make it happen, just as Will has done. And if you're lucky enough to rise up and do well, it is your duty to send the elevator back down. We will see you next Tuesday, as always. Until then, take care, go make your feature film, make it happen. Bye, Will.
Ooh, bye. Thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure.
Thanks,
bye,
Will.
Lucinda.
Bye.
See you all later. Bye.